Okay. So Challenger Baseball is, we have players, Brighton started 4 years ago with a Challenger team. We're kind of late. There's been places that have had it for 20, 25 years. In fact, there's a Challenger World Series, which is almost getting to 30 years. So anyway, Challenger Baseball is for any special ed kids. We have autistic kids, ones with Down syndromes, some that are physically challenged in wheelchairs. So anybody can play. And it's baseball, but the baseball part is not really, you don't have to like baseball. You don't have to, it's more just to be outside, have an opportunity to get, the kids really enjoy getting cheered for. They hit the ball and they get cheered for. They really enjoy that, just being outside. And it's the parents also enjoy getting a break for the time their game. They can just kind of sit and watch and enjoy their children. And we're trying to grow here. There's some of the highlights for our Brighton Challenger is that this is new. We're going to live stream all home games. So if you're unable, if not both parents or grandparents or can't make it to watch them, they can watch it on live stream. Also, every year as I mentioned about the Challenger World Series, we have a game where our players get to play on Frontier Field, which is quite a thrill, and they get free food and they get to meet Red Wings. And also we get invited to a game with free tickets to see the Red Wings also. Also, another thing that we're doing, thanks to the Rotary Club, is that any Challenger player has the opportunity to go to Camp Hakamo for free, which is sponsored by the Brighton Rotary Club. So again, that's for Challenger players. And Camp Hakamo is a camp that's for exclusive for special needs kids. And it's a sleepover camp, but also they'll let you come visit for a day if you don't want to do the sleepover. And that's pretty much my description of Challenger. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me. We're going to try to get some more information out to you, a flyer and things like that. But anybody have any questions about Challenger? Oh, before I forget, I know it seems a far time away. Our season starts in May, but we're really looking for people to sign up now. And again, the flyer will provide more information. But if you go on the Brighton Little League website, you'll be able to register there. But it's real important that we have people sign up now, because we need to be able to plan for uniforms, for expenses. Challenger has, for anybody who plays Challenger, there's no registration fee. It's completely free, but it does, because we have donors and sponsors, we need to plan in advance. So the sooner we know how many players, the better we can plan. Does anyone have any questions for me regarding Challenger?
This is Tiffany. The only question I have, Andrew, is does the flyer talk about Camp Hakamo, just so parents are aware?
It's just a little bullet point that mentions about Camp Hakamo on there.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Andy, thank you so much for your time today. If you send me the flyers, I'll make sure that they get out to folks. And I know that you are in particular looking for making sure that our older students have the opportunity to participate. You'd like to see some of the older kids join.
Right, exactly. Like I said, and if you can, even if you're thinking about joining, register. If you change your mind and things come up, that's fine. But like I said, it's important that we kind of have an idea of who may be playing, sooner than later. It just helps us plan better. Okay, thanks everyone for their time.
Thanks, Andy. Have a great day.
All right, bye.
All right, I will continue to watch the chat. And I will also continue to let folks who may be joining us later to join in. And Rachel, I'm going to turn it over to you. You should be able to share your screen and away you go.
Hi, everybody. Nice to have some familiar faces and names here. While I get this set up, I'm just going to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Rachel Rosner. I am the Director of Education and Support Services for Autism Up. Autism Up is a local nonprofit that serves people with autism, of course, but in general, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. And I have 2 kids with autism who are not kids, which is sad news. My son, Andrew, is 23, and my daughter, Leah, is a Brighton senior. So I will not have any kids in the Brighton schools for the first time in more than 20 years shortly, which is super weird. Anyhow, so that's just a little bit about me and about Autism Up. So it's 12/12. And just putting it out there that I don't think there's any way we're going to get through all of this and be able to answer your questions in 45 minutes. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I'm going to plow through as quickly as I can. Deanna, if you would monitor the chat, that would be great. And there are only maybe 14 people on here. So I would, if you need to ask a question, if you could write it in the chat, or if you really need to interrupt me, I'm totally cool with that. Just unmute yourself and butt in. So happy to do that. So here we go. Put a little Kermit in there because Muppets are good, but also because this is not an easy topic. So for Kermit, it's not easy being green. For us parents, this is not an easy topic to think about and to approach with our kids. If I was super fancy, I would have "It's Not Easy Being Green" playing in the background. But anyway, so other than obviously the useful tips and tricks, it's really important that we have this conversation, that we talk about it, and that we get out in front of it as parents. I'm not going to go through, every statistic with you, but it's really important. People with developmental disabilities are 4 to 10 times more likely to be sexually abused when they're adults. Children with disabilities are more than twice as likely to be sexually abused. Continuously by the same person, and it's just an incredibly difficult thing and really important to arm yourselves and your kiddos with this information and this knowledge so that we can try to prevent that and change those numbers. More specifically, children and youth with disabilities are more at risk, obviously, because they need more assistance with personal care and hygiene. So they might be, you might have someone coming in from outside the house, outside your family, who you don't know well, helping with that personal care. They may find it difficult to report abuse because of their communication difficulties. There's a whole movement in the Child Advocacy Center world, Bavona, by the way, and other organizations like them across the country to work with their forensic interviewers to do a better job because, for example, nonverbal communication with an iPad or some other sort of device that a non-speaking person might use is not admissible in court. We also teach our kids to comply with authority, which makes any child obviously harder for them to recognize when they're being abused. They might be targeted and they might not be believed. So just sorry to start this out with such a whammy, but it is a really important thing, not just for your own child's development and comfort with their own bodies, but for their future out there in the community. Okay, so the reason why you are here most likely is because you have some level of hesitancy about this topic. It could be my child is too young. It could be, I don't really know how to start the conversation, how to talk to my child. It just makes me uncomfortable talking about this. You know, I never really had the same conversation with my own parents. Sex and sexuality was not discussed when I was growing up. Fears that talking about it might encourage my child to experiment, which isn't actually true, but, and just being unsure what your child needs to know and when they need to know it. That seems to be a pretty common thing. So hoping to try to break down some of these for everybody today. One of the most important things to realize is that you already are teaching them, even if you are purposefully, for whatever reason, avoiding having these kinds of conversations, you are already teaching your child about these topics just by being in the universe and the way that you are, you know, the rules and boundaries that you set as a family. They learn from the way they're touched by others. They learn, obviously, by the way their bodies feel to them, your own family's beliefs and customs, the words that family members use or don't use to refer to body parts and bodily functions. They learn by watching the relationships around them, observing, you know, what moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas do. Sorry. Went backwards a little bit there. They learn by watching TV and listening to music and hanging out with friends. They learn on the bus, all of those different kinds of places. So knowing that, being a little bit more purposeful about what you're doing and how you're doing it is really the reason why we're having this conversation. So things to think about. And again, like I said, this 45 minutes we're spending together is not gonna scratch the surface of all the different kinds you need to think about as a family, and for your child in particular. So just things that come up in conversation. You've got your anatomy and physiology, right? All those sort of nuts and bolts kinds of things. Then things get a little bit murkier with relationships. The different kinds of relationships that a person can have and what they look like and what is a healthy relationship and all of that. Communication skills, sexual behavior, sexual health, you know, all of those kinds of things that we are not even touching today. But those are the kinds of things that as your child gets older, that you need to start thinking about, and just being thoughtful and deliberate about how you approach those things with your child, knowing that kids with disabilities are many times more vulnerable than their neurotypical friends. I keep pressing the wrong button to advance the slide. Okay, so even though this seems scary and intimidating and complicated, there are obviously some really great benefits to doing this, right? This is your chance to directly talk to your kiddos about your own values, about sexuality and relationships. And your family, right, is going to be different than every other family that's out there. Everybody has different dynamics, different customs, different comfort levels with different things. This is your opportunity to provide correct and accurate information to better understanding your child's perspective, to open up those conversations. This is your chance to answer questions honestly and using words and terminology that they can understand. And to start thinking about doing all of this in a way that's right for your child, where they are at this moment, and to start making a plan for how to approach those things as they grow and change. So here's the hard part for some families, and we're not in person, so it's hard to see the looks on your faces. The deal is that your child has a disability, and whether we like it or not, it's hard for any parent to see their kid grow up. To have a child with a disability, in particular, intellectual and developmental disabilities makes things a bit more complex. It makes those feelings a little bit more complex, but it's really important not to infantilize your child, and to know that a 14-year-old boy is a 14-year-old boy, whether they have a disability or not. And they're going to go through those stages of social and sexual development, just like everybody else on the planet. There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen. Just like most things with our kiddos in terms of their learning and development and growth, we need to give things a little more deliberation, a little more thought, and to maybe make a little bit of more concrete plans than some other families. So I'm hoping to be able to give you some suggestions for how to do that for yourself. So you can protect your child. By doing this, you protect them by giving them correct information about sex and their body parts and language and things like that. You can then know that your child understands and is aware of things like privacy, safety, personal boundaries, that kind of thing, and make sure that they understand their personal rights, and what their choices are to be a healthy person, with their social life, and with their bodies. So of course, how do I do that? Because easier said than done, right? So it's actually not that hard. When you notice something, point it out. Just like you notice that your kids are getting taller, just like you notice that maybe their clothes are fitting in a different way. Those are easy things just to point out, just for informational purposes. Hey, look at that. Those people are holding hands. I wonder if they're sisters, or I wonder if they are girlfriends. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But by pointing it out, starting the conversation in that sort of casual kind of way, you make it safe and easy for your kids to talk to you about this kind of thing. And you make it a part of everyday life and not scary and intimidating any more than it has to be. So of course, why do it this way? Because sometimes our kids can't ask the question. They don't even know what question to ask. So giving them that information before they have the chance to ask, takes away that stigma and all that other stuff. But sometimes our particular kiddos have so much else going on inside their brains that this may not be front and center, even when we want or need it to be. And the other thing, to make sure you make the rules the same for the whole family. So the rules, the boundaries, the guidelines, the things that you're setting out for your child with a disability should be and can be and should be the same for every child in your family. There's no reason for them to be different. There's no reason for them to be, using different language and terminology, have different rules and boundaries. That makes it more confusing, right? But there's just they don't need special rules in this way, special guidelines. It should be the same for every kiddo in your household. And then that makes it easier when everybody's on the same page. So, being proactive, pre-teaching, like we talked about before, when things come up. Point them out. Don't wait for your child to bring it up in conversation. Find a time to do it yourself. I'm sure we've all had the experience of having really amazing conversations with our kids in the car. I think there are a variety of reasons why that happens. It's quiet and it's alone time. For the preteens and middle school age kiddos, you're not making eye contact with them, which is super awesome. And kind of relieves that sort of intense pressure when you're having a conversation like this. So I find that having these conversations in the car. Sometimes they come up in the car, but it's a little bit less of an intimidating way to do it. But don't wait. Make sure that you're proactive. Be concrete and be specific. Be consistent and repetitive about safety stuff. The same vocabulary, the same rules, the same guidelines every single time, so that they know that they are very clear and concrete about the rules that you set in your house. If you don't have someone who's the same gender in your household as your child, and you think that they might be better, having someone of the same gender help to teach them, I think that's just fine, as long as you have that person, making sure that they're on the same page as you are. Making sure that you address, potentially in the future, those social dimensions of a person's sexuality, of their sexuality, reinforcing appropriate behaviors, redirecting inappropriate behaviors. I mean, this is not new information for you, but applying all of those same concepts to this particular topic. So, super amazing, wonderful resource. You can actually go to Google the genderbread person. There's a website that does have some really nice resources on it. And I find the genderbread person such an approachable, easy, concrete way to start having these conversations about topics that can be confusing for our kids, and maybe for us too. So the differences between all four of these things. So your gender identity is inside your brain. So what gender you are or are not is inside your brain. Who you are attracted to is different than your gender identity. Your anatomical sex is not the same thing as your gender identity. And the way you express your gender on the outside, where other people can see, is also another thing entirely. So I just find this a really good illustration. It's friendly, it's easy for parents to help show their kids the difference and to help keep things straight.
So there's a question in the chat. I'm going to interrupt
Sure.
for a second. And I see that someone's asking, are there books to read to your child? So that maybe something you can talk about later, or you maybe have it on a different slide, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that question was there.
Yeah, there are boatloads of books. There are, there is one particular book for the IDD community that's pretty good, and I'm going to give you some other resources later. But it's called The Care and Keeping of You. It's a pretty big workbook, and of course, it may not be the right thing for you, but lots of our families have had good success with it, and it's a really nice one. So I encourage you to.
That's the only question we have right now.
Okay, good.
And actually, while I'm still talking, I will just take this opportunity just to say hello to our principal. Mr. Jim Nunez has joined us as well. Just wanted to make sure that people knew he was here with us today. And I know he'll be able to address any questions or things at the end if there's time. So Good afternoon. I know you've got a very busy day packed with many, many meetings. So we're really glad that you could be here today.
Oh, but thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Popping in on such a stressless, friendly, fun conversation. But the genderbread, I think it's the genderbreadperson.org, but I'm not sure. But there is a really terrific website with other resources on it that you are welcome to Google. So many issues that come up with puberty, and your kiddos are right in it right now. All these things to think about. not only for themselves, but for people of different genders than they are. It's just as important. Obviously, it's really important to understand yourself and what's going on inside your own body in a way that works for you. But don't forget to have those conversations about the opposite gender or different genders and what that might look like. You know, if you have a male child, talking about what happens with females. They get that in school, but what they get in school does not have your family's vocabulary, does not have your family's values, rules, boundaries put on it. So it's important to build on that and to make sure that it's customized for your child. So all of these things, body hair, sexually transmitted infections, all these really uncomfortable topics, hygiene, reproduction, really, really, really important. The right to say no and how to do that. How to respect other people's personal space, navigating romantic friendships and relationships. It's just really lots of super awesome, complicated stuff. But wanted you to have a list of things just to kind of start getting your brains in the right place. So, super fun words. If we were in person, I would make us go around the room and everybody taking a chance saying the words out loud, because that's really important. And in the handouts that you either have received or will hopefully receive after this, there is an extensive list of vocabulary words and definitions that you, in case you don't know, but to share with your child. They're very easy, clear, simple definitions of lots more words than these few. And I just wanted to share a quick story about why using the proper language is really important. This is a true story. One from someone who I was doing a similar training a number of years ago for UPK teachers. And we were talking about the importance of naming the body parts properly. And she told me a story of this student of hers who, sweet little 3-year-old who coming in every day and, nothing interesting, and spent the whole day talking about her uncle and a purse. And just couldn't stop talking about it. And the teacher was trying to figure out what was going on and couldn't really make sense of what this little girl was saying. She had never talked about having a purse before. Not that little 3-year-olds don't have purses, right? They might like to, lots of little 3-year-old girls have lots of purses and bags and things that they like. But it was just really the only thing that she could talk about all day was her purse, which she did not have at school, and how her uncle took her purse or something like that. And she just couldn't figure it out. And it was bothering her even after school let out. The little one seemed fine. But she kept saying, my uncle touched my purse. My uncle touched my purse. It was just not making sense. Anywho, so she called home because, not to alarm anybody, but just because she wanted to know what was going on so that she could, help this little girl. Maybe the purse was broken or something and needed to be thrown away. Who knows? Turns out that in their house, they don't use the proper terminology for your vagina. And she was saying, my uncle touched my purse. My uncle touched my purse. And that was the way that they found out that her uncle was molesting her. And they never would have known if the teacher hadn't called. So please, please, please teach your kids the proper language and words. Please don't use nicknames like that. And that story is the exact reason why using the proper words for body parts is really important. Oh, hygiene, middle schoolers and hygiene. So awesome, isn't it? We know why, right? Because they smell. We know that's why hygiene is important. They all stink. Candace. But it's important for lots of reasons. It's important for social reasons, right? And for them to be able to continue having those social relationships at school. Nobody wants to sit near you if you smell bad, or if you are, you know, unshowered with greasy hair and your teeth, you know, and you have bad breath and all those kinds of things. So those things are important for social reasons, but they're also important for health reasons, which is something that tended to work in my own house because, you know, frankly, my son didn't care what other people thought or if they wanted to be around him or not. So that didn't work, right? He didn't care. I don't care if they want to sit next to me or not. So I wasn't able to use that as motivation for deodorant and, you know, when you get in the shower to actually take a shower and clean your body with soap and all of that independently. But it did work a bit better when we were able to talk about how those things are connected to your physical health, brushing your teeth, for example, and all of the things that can happen inside your body, not just your mouth, if you don't brush your teeth. So just thinking about the different reasons and how to, because you know your child best, what's the right way to connect and to make these things important to your particular child. So how do we do that? Haha. Baby steps. So, okay, we'll go, so baby steps. Don't think too big. You need to just one step at a time, pick one thing to focus on. So in this example, I'm talking about taking a shower. We know that executive function and motor planning and that kind of thing can be really difficult for some of our kids. So giving them the tools that they need inside the bathroom, inside the shower, things like visual aids. When my kids were little, we had a laminated list with little pictures of each of the things in order that they needed to do in the shower. Wash your hair was one, wash your body, wash your face, you know, that kind of thing. And we had the steps with pictures. And to this day, my kids still shower in that very same order. And, you know, giving them something to look to help guide them will help them know what's coming next, will help them stay focused if they, you know, we all kind of zone out in the shower, right? And then when they realize, oh boy, the water's getting cold, I got to get out of here. What else do I have to do? Maybe a laminated list in the shower will work. Like I said, doing it in the same order every time. Maybe you number the bottles. That's what worked for my daughter, actually. It was not the list. But numbering the bottles, I had a label maker and I put 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that helped to know what to do next and to make sure that nothing got skipped. And the other thing really is just, it's not negotiable. You can't not take a shower. You can't not brush your teeth. You just, it's a non-negotiable thing. So to make what, you know, whether it's getting in and out of the shower or whatever else you're choosing to make a priority, you be ready to make it that non-negotiable thing. And it could be something smaller than taking a shower. It could be brushing your teeth. It could be using deodorant. It could be, you know, any number of things But I think that as you choose each, as you're deciding on which thing to focus on, making it that non-negotiable, it will help. You also have to be willing to maybe put some other things to the side, but letting your kiddo know that it is a priority, why it's a priority, and that you're going to give them some help along the way. So this is just an example of sort of an exit checklist of things to look for before you leave the house. Smell your armpits. Do they smell fresh? If they don't, put on some deodorant. Look at your clothes. Are they clean? If they're not, change them or clean it off. Look at your nose. Is it clean? Look at your face, your hair. Making sure that you use the restroom before you go. You can customize a list like this for yourself in a way that looks good and is usable for your particular kid. Some kids really respond to the picture exchange system, like these graphics, and other kids don't. So whatever works for you in whatever way to check off those reminders. And in this case, it looks like it was something that, got laminated and then the kiddo checked it off to follow all those steps before they left the house. If you're going to do something like this, I think it's a great idea, but also it's going to take a few extra minutes, right, to get ready to leave the house. So making sure that you have those extra couple of minutes to go through this list. If you have a feeling that your kiddo is going to need to go upstairs and change a shirt, you're going to need to leave even more time. So thinking about making something like this that works for you. Okay. Here's the really important conversation. Teaching your kids about public versus private. This is paramount to any number of situations, issues, things that come up at home, at school. It can also help protect them from those abusers if they know these rules. The difference between public and private. So public and private body parts, public and private behaviors, public and private places. So private body parts, and here's some ways to explain it, are body parts that are covered by a bathing suit or underwear. These body parts, private body parts, should be covered when you're in public spaces. If you want to touch or scratch your private parts, you should wait until you are in a private place. No one can touch your body without your permission. No one can see your body without your permission. Your body should not be shown to anyone who doesn't want to see it. So good rules to live by, really easy, simple explanations. And I think, if you're going to use a rule like this, for example, nobody can see your body without your permission. That includes the pediatrician. So here's how I learned this lesson. I had been doing this public-private thing with my son when he was younger, in middle school age, and we went for his annual physical. And I didn't know that it was going to be the first time where she was going to need to examine what's under the underwear. I didn't have warning for this, and so I didn't have time to prepare him. And she said, "Can I look in your underwear? It'll only take me a second." And he said, "No." Go, Andrew. He said, "No." And she looked at me. And I said, "Sorry." She said, "I really need to do this. This is the first time. It's a part of the exam." And I said, "Well, first of all, don't ask a question you don't want the answer to." She asked. And he said, "No." And I'm not gonna, no, this goes against everything that I've been trying to teach him. No one can see your body without your permission. I said, if you want us to come back and make another appointment so that you can do that, or we can do it next time or whatever, then I can prepare him. You asked, he answered, the end. So I hope they learned something all those years ago. No one can see your body without your permission. No one can touch your body without your permission. I don't care who it is. Private behaviors, things you do only when you're by yourself. They should occur in an appropriate private place. Brushing your teeth, picking your nose, adjusting your underwear, going to the bathroom, masturbation, sticking your hand down your pants. Those are private behaviors and should be done in a private place. Private places do not include your living room, by the way. A private place is where there is only one person, and that person is you. And a place where you are usually alone. So for example, he might be alone in the living room right now, but the living room is not a private place just because he's in the only person in there right now. So public body parts are body parts that can be seen by others. Your hands, your feet, your face, your neck, whatever your rules are for your family about the way, the kinds of clothes you wear, and whatever body parts are able to be seen by others. And you're going to need to talk about the opposite gender, right? And other genders that your child is not, so that they understand what body parts on other people are private. Public behaviors are things that you can do when you're around other people. Public places, a place where there is more than one person, and places where you are likely to see other people. Like I said about the living room or the kitchen or wherever those places are, you might be by yourself, but that doesn't mean that it's a private place. So I hope those things help with that explanation. And I hope that you can use the public versus private rules with your kids to start setting those boundaries if you need them. So yeah, your kids are in middle school and they're going to be masturbating if they haven't already. They just do. So some tips and tricks for how to talk to your kids about it. Explaining to them what it is so that they know the word, obviously. Making sure that they understand that it's normal and not something to be afraid of. Whether someone chooses to masturbate or not is a personal choice. If they choose to do it, that's their choice to make, not yours or anybody else's. It's not harmful, it's normal. But again, with the public and private, right? It's something that is done in private. So where could someone masturbate in your home? Perhaps in the bathroom with the door closed and no one else in there, or in their bedroom that they don't share with another person. So for example, if you say it's okay to do that in the bathroom, you need to make sure that you've talked about the difference between public and private bathrooms. Because doing it in the bathroom at school is a public place, even though it's a bathroom. Okay. Safe versus unsafe touches. And then the other piece that I think you're probably pretty well aware of, safe and unsafe touching. But the other thing that we don't tend to talk about is necessary touches. Sometimes it's okay or necessary or helpful to have an adult look at or touch a child's private parts. Helping them in the bathtub, changing a baby's diaper, going to the doctor. If mom or dad needs to look at something that's hurt. So adding that extra dimension of necessary touches can help, and could have helped me at the doctor's office all those years ago. We could do hours and hours on, keeping your child safe from sexual abuse. And there actually is a wonderful curriculum and trainers out of Bavona called Darkness to Light. It's really not, unfortunately, it's really not something that we can do virtually. We would need to be in person, but lots of organizations around the area have Darkness to Light certified trainers, including Autism Up. So if you have a group, maybe we can do that another time, another day. It is a lengthy training, about 2.5 hours, but totally worth it. So we're just going to skip over that. Talking about boundaries and personal space, really important for their social success, right? But also helps set those boundaries to keep them safe. Who is the owner of your body? What can you do with your body? How can you take care of your body? Making sure to set those, and everybody's family is going to have different rules. We have very, very close friends of our family, and their kids do not hug anyone who does not, other than grandparents, who does not live in their household. They do not, grandparents, aunts, uncles, people who live in their house, and we are very good friends with them. We don't hug. That is not what they do. We high five, we fist pump, we, elbow, whatever. But that's the rule that they set. And they let us know. And, every family is different. So figuring out what those boundaries are and personal space for your family, and making sure your kids know. So here's how you do that. And we have 8 whole minutes, and I want to have some time for questions. The circles, this is something called the circles curriculum. You will not be able to find too much information on it online because it costs a ton. It's like costs thousands of dollars to get. BOCES used to own it. On the other hand, it doesn't cost thousands of dollars to figure out how to use it. And I'm happy to come back at some point and do a workshop just on building out these circles and helping you work through this for your own family. But it's a great way to help navigate all of the stuff that we talked about and set those rules for your child. This is going to take some pre-work for the grown-ups who live in your house to set these things out to make sure that you agree. And so the circle is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Purple is in the middle. The only person who is in the purple circle is you. Nobody can come inside your purple circle without your permission. And your purple circle actually extends a little bit beyond you physically. So think about a small hula hoop. Literally, when I learned about this, somebody had us all in purple hula hoops to illustrate, that personal space, that private space. And you can give your kids that language. You're in my purple circle, which was said a little too much around some people's houses. But it's really important that they understand that, right? For who can come in and when they can come in, but also for them to know what those boundaries are for other people. The blue circle are people who are closest to you. It could be just the people who live in your house. It might include grandma and grandpa if they live downstairs or around the corner, or, again, everybody's family is different. Appropriate touches in the blue circle might include kisses, cuddles, hugs, that kind of thing. In the green circle might be extended family, friends of the family, and you're going to have to give some thought to who's in your blue circle and who's in your green circle if they're not related to you. And think about what kind of touches are appropriate for people within that green circle. The yellow circle is including people who you know, but you might not call them friends, I guess. But you know them pretty well. Appropriate touches include handshakes. Touching is limited to hands. So It could be people in your chemistry class that you know, but you're not friends with, right? You don't hang out with them after school. They don't come over. You're not on the soccer team together. The orange circle is people who you see around. So it might be a teacher at TCMS who you know who they are, but you're not in their class. The neighbor that lives across the street a few doors down, and you see them on dog walks all the time, but you don't even necessarily know their name. The orange circle includes community helpers. The orange circle is a circle filled with people who are paid to help you. Store clerks, waiters, delivery people, the mail carriers, and teachers, and aides, and paraprofessionals, and school counselors, and the principal, and all the people that work at the school. This may seem counterintuitive, right? Because we want our kids to have a close relationship with the people that are caring for them at school, but it is really important to understand, for them to understand that those people who are paid to help them are not in their blue and green circle. They're just not. That doesn't mean that they couldn't be, and sometimes that happens, right? Especially those of us that have kids with disabilities who may have had professionals in our home from when our kids were toddlers. And so now that we have left that professional relationship, maybe we're still friends with them. And then they have sort of moved circles, right? But you're not friends with your teacher. You're not friends with your school counselor. You don't invite them over for dinner and talk about what movie you saw. I mean, I guess maybe you do, but it's just a really important delineation to make sure that your kids are understanding that orange circle is people who are paid to be there. And, you know, we love the commitment of our teachers and the people at TCMS, but we all know if they weren't paid to be there, they wouldn't be there. They're not doing it only out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because it's their job. And I think it's important to differentiate that between people who are like parents who are doing it because you are the parent and you love them. Anyhow, soapbox moment. And the red circle, people who you do not know. You don't know their name, you don't know their face, you don't have anything in common with them. And you don't touch them. You don't talk to them. Anyway, this was like the shortest explanation of the circles I could ever give in my life. I hope that it piques your interest. You can get some, you know, off the circles curriculum brand things on Pinterest, on Teachers Pay Teachers and stuff like that. And I'm happy to, you know, help people kind of flesh that out if you think it's something that works for you. This is just an example of ways to explain the circles to your kids. I'm aware that it's 12:58. And so this is what the circles could look like. And when you're doing this, you literally write the names of the people in the different circles. And then if you want to take it one step farther and divide them up into pieces of the pie, so this piece of the pie over here is at 12 Corners Middle School, and this piece of the pie over on the top is at your church. And then there's another one for your neighborhood. That doesn't mean that you need to fill every circle for each little piece of the pie. In fact, it's very appropriate, right, to have certain pieces of the pie empty, depending on what you're talking about. So you're not going to have anybody in the blue circle at if you're talking about 12 Corners. This is the resource. This has literally everything you could ever want. It's totally amazing. There's one for girls and one for boys. There's a guide for the kids and an accompanying materials and visuals for families. You can literally just Google Vanderbilt puberty or Vanderbilt Healthy Bodies, and it will pop up. It's extremely long and very thorough. There are visual supports in there. It's really a fantastic resource. So you could download them to your computer and then just print out what you need. They're really, really great. And it's 1 o'clock on the dot and we didn't get to any questions. So I'm willing and able to stay for a few minutes if anybody has anything. I know I threw a ton of information at you.
Rachel, just in case people are not comfortable asking questions online, can you share your email in the chat?
Yep, there it is.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
It's rrosner@autismup.org. Happy to do that. I know this is, can be an uncomfortable conversation. That's one of the reasons why I do this, is to be able to say the words out loud and start talking about it. So anybody?
If there are any questions out there, please feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask Rachel anything you'd like.
It's okay if you don't. I'm not offended. This is weird.
Right. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for your time. I know your presentation was very informative and greatly appreciated by all. We will put it out. It is being recorded. So if there are families out there who would like to see it, it is recorded and available for them. All right. But thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And for those of you out there, families, thank you for joining us and sharing your time with us as well.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.
Have a great day, everyone. Stay warm and well.